Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Super Happy Dragon Lucky episode 1A, 0x1A. So today, have a couple of quick things to go over. I don't have a ton of time, so I can't stay as long as last week, but want to at least go over a couple of things quickly. Some messages from the Telegram group and some DMs as well. If they don't get asked in the live chat, I will answer those. So the first piece was basically info about the nodes that some people came upon whatever time boundary there was, and the system kicked their node out. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was on. So if there are still any remaining issues with that, let us know. It was basically that you had to set your payment method, or else it would assume that it couldn't decide how to charge you. So if you hadn't set that, even if you had a coupon, even if you had a node that you had been awarded, it would knock you out. So apologies for the confusion. I think it's all wrapped up and good now. The second piece of that was we had something like 80, it's somewhere between 50 and 80 level 3 nodes, I believe, that were awarded from Dragonchain and other potential stuff with betas. And what we're doing, because those cost quite a bit to run over time, what we're going to do is automatically move all of those to a special level 3 pool that is only those nodes, not anybody, just those people can join. And at the same time, open up for application to allow those users to run level 4 unmanaged nodes, which is preferable to us, and it should be a better situation as well for those users in terms of just the probability of selection will be higher in a level 4, and it depends on how many people move over, but it should be less than level 3s at least in time. So that, and we would, I guess, if it turns out that there were fewer level 3s, we would allow that as well. If you wanted to run unmanaged level 3 on your own as well, it would be potentially preferable to any pool, but that would be up to you. And so we'll be doing that really soon. And we still have to figure out what will happen with similar. I don't have the counts on the number of level 2 nodes in the same situation. People who were in the pilot program, I think for the Academy, had level 2 nodes, and we want to do something similar. They'll have a private pool and probably open that up to level 4 as well, and or at least 3 or 4. And let people decide and give whatever support we can for running the nodes. Let us know if anyone is interested in the. Oh, and by the way, before I forget about it, for that level 4, the criteria is basically that you have to provide identity. So that we can say this node is a notary node. So this node is run by this person or this organization, and that'll be part of the application. And there are a few people already on the wait list, and we're just so you guys know, we're waiting to get a couple of other things in place before we turn that on. But that will, all the gates will open up at that point. And so we already have verification from a handful of people to run level 4s. We have to also figure out if we want to, because I think the gates are still there, but I'd have to check with engineering that we kind of like to leave those time gates, so maybe lower them. But that is if you don't want the new program that was rolled out just this week was that you could run 10 level 2s, and it opens up that you could then run level 3, and for every 10 level 2s that are independent, you can run another level 3, and then it would also open it up to a level 4 if you have enough nodes running that are healthy. So let's see here. I will get into AMAs in a minute. The other piece that we're looking at is long-term federation. There are a couple of questions coming up that I'll get to about nodes that have zero time applied. And there are a couple of other questions coming around in the chat. So we'll get to those in a minute. Let's see here. There were questions and apologies to some that I was a little bit direct in my response, but there were some questions about the payouts for the documentary. And yes, that whole thing was funded since the beginning in Dragons, and it was part of our marketing. And some of the things took quite a bit longer than we wanted, but all those things take a while. So that is expected in summer to roll out. We'll announce what network, and I don't even have all the details on everywhere that it will be, but we at least know the primary. And that's not my world, so I don't totally understand some of how the syndication and everything works. But along with that, we have some marketing coming out, which will interest the people out there. We have at least a placement that should be in the Forbes blockchain issue in March, and basically an advertisement. And then we're working on other ads and other marketing that would be focused very much on business, and in particular enterprise, but any business, and those would be timed around both the Forbes article, the hopeful rollout of a couple of the interesting features on DIN as that spun out the door Dragonchain, and then also some of the things are around, I guess some things I can't announce yet, but that are coming out similar timing, along with the show. So if the show's in summer, we're going to start a little bit before that with some of the rollout and see how it works. So be watchful for that. There will be likely other payments. So as it relates to that, we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that it's solid and clean and fair and transparent as it can be. So I'm going to try to get some of the announcements cascading down at least before we roll out. So this is part of that. So yeah, in March we'll have some good things starting, and we're prepping everything up right now. Okay, if I've forgotten anything, do ping me. But I will try to now get to some of the questions. I converted the AMA layer in DIN. It was geared and entirely branded to be the AMA for the 24-hour demo. If you'd watched that, we thank you. It was actually really successful. And we had a lot of really good questions over a long 24-hour stream. And I'm basically converting it to a generic AMA. So if anybody with any project would want to have an AMA in there and have it forever memorialized on blockchain, they can use that. I'm going to get, sorry, I tried to do it right before the show here. It's not ready for today. We'll have it for next week. But I tried to change the description to set out some general rules. So we'll start using that. So, get your DIN login in place if you don't already have it. And we'll basically try to, follow. We'll make a post every week, and we'll follow through any questions that are in there, ideally arranged in order, unless they're from Melissa O, right? Anyway, let's see here. I'll get to some of these questions now from Tim Miller. Would our KYC be sufficient for the level 4 node? I assume so. If I don't know what you mean, if it's a KYC that you did for another group, or if you're asking just in general the format of the KYC. Yes, I think we've been saying as long as we have some form of state ID and we will, and in the end, it'll be Dragon Factor based. But for right now, we've collected some of those IDs, and we at least have met these people. We know that they're real people; they're not bots, and so on. So let's see here. Super Bowl commercial next year. That'd be nice, right? I don't think it'd be worth it, but we'd see, right? Let's see here. Community involvement with the documentary series. Brian Schmricker. Sorry. I hope I say that every time. I hope I pronounce that right. Can you describe what that might look like? We will get more details out, but at the beginning, my understanding, and it might not be perfect, is because it's from memory, but is that Rainmaker, which is Coin, owns a piece of the documentary. We own a piece of the documentary, and I know that they are taking a chunk of their piece and putting it into the Rainmaker system. We're going to do the same, and the Rainmaker or Coin system. I'm not sure. Rainmaker's the project, and Coin is the coin. But the platform itself will allow you to get points based upon social media engagement. So if you retweet posts about the show, it will basically keep a score for you, and somehow you are awarded in some fashion. And I don't know the legal background, but it would be an actual piece of the show, and they have the ability to do all of the things in the securities world with security tokens and actual equity that you would need to do. They understand the regulations there, and I don't want to talk to that at all. But it'll basically be that you get a piece of the show, and from our side, as long as we can do it, we're going to do the same thing. But I'm trying to see if we can't integrate something with time as well. That if you do time devotions or something similar, that you can also be rewarded. So that'll be an interesting experiment, and we're actually going to be engaging with them quite a bit to help them build out the platform for that. So that'll be really interesting and really fun project. So let's see here. Bit by the Coin wants to know what everyone wants from the grocery store. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hungry. Let's see here. Tim Miller, when will we be able to use time for things other than nodes? For example, bracket style idea that was proposed earlier last year. Actually, it was proposed by us. We didn't announce it, but we wanted to do that in 2018. But there was too much legal, uncertainty, and so we didn't do it. And we've been searching for a partner to help us for quite a while. We think we have someone that we know is solid, and we just have to get everything in order. And so hopefully that'll be soon. I'm trying to see if we can run one sooner rather than later, just as to get stuff started and to really test out all the parts of the system that would be required. So we'll see how that goes. If anybody has any ideas for how to use time devotions to potentially maybe get access to parts of the service or something else, we'd be open to that too. That's always interesting stuff. It's very abstract, so it's hard to explain it to people outside the community. But Tim Miller, we had KYC for the wallet and platform in early 2018. Was it for the wallet and platform? I'll check. I'll figure it out. We generally, I know that any KYC that was done on earlier projects, we make sure we don't hold it. So once it's in there, I don't want to risk having somebody break in and take all that and leak it. As you guys know, what has happened to us in the past, that it's not ever worth any of that, especially with your data. In fact, we still have an attack every time we announce something. So as soon as the stuff happens in March, as soon as the show goes out, that certain people will be sending an email out to a certain list that was, and we apologize, where an intern did send to one of our email lists a full CC instead of a BCC, and that has been used ever since. So anybody who is on that, the worst part of it is that this one person that is that we all know who it is has been emailing them. So apologies there. Some people are like that. So anyway, let's see here. Next question: would the currency contract for coin be run on DragonNet? Yes, I believe. Now this is limited info, but I'll let you know what I know. All of the mobile app interactions, all of the interactions with social media and network through that mobile app, and anything that would be scored for the use in the security token section, which I do believe is running on a private Ethereum node, because the group that handled that part of the system specializes in security tokens, and that's not an area that we've we could do, but the legal side of it's too complex and different for every project, and it's really kind of crazy. So it's very expensive to do one way or another. Everything though that would go through that mobile app would be one transaction per on DragonNet, and basically memorialized to Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic, and Binance, and will be everything that you already know about, and provable. So and we aren't sure how much of it. I assume a lot of it will have to be transparent. So there might be a part of that system that would be kind of like Eternal, where you can look at anybody's retweet, and because it's already public, and you'd be able to see, okay, yes, I can see that it's on Twitter, and I can see that Joe actually retweeted it on this date. There's the transaction. Therefore, here's how the scoring was. So theoretically, that would be what I would like to see, but that's not final. Let's see here. Yes, press like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'm horrible at this YouTube thing, right? Dragon tokens is a form of payment from Tim Miller on some of these newer payment processors. That I don't know. There are some things that are possible. There are some things in the work. I do know that we have a couple of projects that are interesting that do have dragons in the mix. I don't have a timeline on those because they're independent projects, but they're exciting to me. I'm trying to help them as much as I can on the economy and making it a usable system where blockchain is in the background, but there are interactions. So let's see here. Oh yeah, my acting career. Yeah, I have no idea when any of that stuff is. Yeah, joke. Let's see here. Okay, too complex from Tommy. That's a question, but I don't know a question for what. Maybe my answer. Sorry, Tommy, if it's maybe a little bit too long. Okay, Tenacious Dragon asks an ETA for lore. So if you don't know, lore is layer ownership rights, and we have. Let's see here. We just finished the Matter contract. We just automated the minting. It's an interesting process where we mint Matter on Ethereum first, and then we mine it on Dragonchain. And so that it appears to be solid. That's rolling out. Mining is going on. Everything's good there. Next step is lore, which is a fungible token, ERC20. I'll try to get the white paper out ASAP. Sorry, I was so busy last week, couldn't get it out. Basically, lore will let you buy or create a new layer. So when you create a new layer, it will have lot, which is layer ownership tokens, and that these lot are 1-to-1 for the amount of lore that went into creating the layer. So the lore will be there. People who are beta users will get some amount of lore from a pool. The people who hold dragons will get some amount of lore from a pool, and we will basically, they will be locked in the system, but it'll be a really good level of scarcity for those people to create all of the first layers that start rolling out. And we're going to start as soon as we have lore in place, and then layer voting. We will then have lot tokens, and then we'll be able to start the layer creation process. So we might have one more layer creation process before that. Some people are itching to create some pretty important layers, so we might go ahead and do that. We'll see. If you have anything that we would need to do even outside of that process to support, we will do it. So if you have an idea for a layer right now, do let us know. We'll either plug it in and let the community decide, or we will go ahead and create it ourselves if it is good and solid use. Let's see here. What are the headwinds? This is from Canis 582. What are headwinds with respect to enterprise adoption? It's always about understanding. Is very abstract. What we do is very new, and we're even now learning better ways to illustrate and describe what's possible. And I do think most of it has to do with getting in the door. Talking about things that are not necessarily blockchain, but instead about blockchain capabilities, what's possible with this tech, what's different about this tech, but at the same time, describing it in terms of these actual business capabilities instead of, oh, this is a blockchain's a solution to X. It's much better to say, here's a solution to X that has these special capabilities that you can't get with traditional systems. And then, when their engineers come in, we can tell them, here's why, here's how those capabilities exist. Let's see here. I know that I had one more question. Okay, so this is from Brian in Florida, that related to nodes that have zero time applied. So the reason that we added this tiered system to say you can run 10 level 2 nodes, open up a level 3. It is intended from two angles, and ideally it's in conjunction with a time gate that if you're already in the community, you can basically use your time to open up the level 3s and 4s. On the unmanaged side. But the tiered system was geared to getting people in the door, running on their own hardware, which is ideal for us for distribution. That if they're running multiple nodes independently, and ideally they would be in different data centers, right? But in the end, it is literally to try to incentivize more nodes to be run, both for scaling of the individual levels and for just, I guess, the sheer count, so that there are enough nodes at hand that we don't see slowdowns at each level. I mean, we could see during as an example, during the live demo, we had, how do I say this? We had in staging, at the beginning of the day, we ran a kind of an all-out test where we wanted to see, how far can we push it in the middle of this test with, and it was in staging, so we could push it really hard without worry. And we hit upwards of 48,000, 50,000 transactions per second, but they were all local cloud Amazon nodes, all run by us. So when we converted over to the live production system, and we ran a very similar test with a couple of different parameters, we hit 15K per second. And we know we could tune that because none of the pieces on the network were optimized. We had not gone, we hadn't seen that level before, so we hadn't actually seen any of the little pieces that caused some latency when it went out and hit nodes on the outside. So one way or another, we want more of those nodes. I wanted to hit upon the fact that zero time, at least in my opinion, should be seen as a positive if you're running a node that others are running nodes with no time, because the more of those there are, the more likely that your node will get hit and have the only time applied, or at least maybe most of the time applied, and you'll get most of that fee. His take was, Brian's was that there's a theoretical possibility that Dragonchain could launch a whole bunch of zero-time nodes and flood the system so that we are, I guess, able to get hit with how do I say, a block verification process that would hit nothing but zeros, and then we would put time on our level 5. But in that case, it would be more likely we would put billions of time, at least in my opinion. And we could go back and forth on this. I'm not against requiring some level of time on every node. The problem is with new community members, new node runners that don't have time. It's nice if, because in that situation, anybody wanting to attack the network that way would have to pay for every node. So the scarcity for an attack would be hardware based. But that's at every level. You'd have to flood that. And the beauty is for existing node runners, the counter to that attack would be that there'd be a very good incentive for you to run a node at every level, and to collect what fees are there when you are hit. So that's ongoing. We can tune that system, but at least right now we're confident with even zero time nodes. And it kind of, the first time we really thought about zero time nodes were for level 4s that were on with partners that they wanted to run a notary. They don't necessarily want, for accounting reasons, even to collect dragons. And we want them there for network reasons to have a good, solid identified notary. So, okay, let's see here. Tommy again. Are you guys doing anything to help with the Ethereum 1MD initiative? I don't know anything about the Ethereum 1MD initiative. If I have time, I'll look. Training up 1 million devs. I would assume that would be 1 million Ethereum devs. An interesting point here, Tommy, would be that, and maybe for you in particular, it'd be useful to know that our philosophy on this is that with Dragonchain, there are already far more than 1 million developers that can build on Dragonchain, because we do allow the developer now to use, with the magic of Docker and Kubernetes, to use any executable code at all in your container as a smart contract, or as an oracle, or as any of the other patterns that can be built on Dragonchain. The beauty there is there's no need to train up a whole bunch of Solidity developers or people who are focused entirely on pure decentralized. And it's a beautiful thing. I'm not against that. And in fact, there is definitely a pattern where people will build stuff on Ethereum or Ethereum Classic in Solidity, and they will access that through an interchain and actually be able to run a portion of their business logic in the transparent Ethereum chain, but then keep the rest over safe in Dragonchain. So it wouldn't fit our model, and that's some of the beauty of the philosophy and the architecture that we put together as far back as 2014, 2015, is that we don't need that, and particularly we don't want that, because we want companies to be able to come in and know that the developers they already have, which already know their data, already know their business logic, already know their customers, can build immediately and be productive right away, very quickly, day one, on Dragonchain. And that's very clear, in my opinion, beautiful thing. Let's see here, Brian Schmecker again. Can Dragon be used instead of an IBM provided service and still be plugged into the Food Trust program? I don't have details. We have a couple of people on staff that have actually looked into a lot of this, and from my understanding, and at least even from a higher level, that we can very easily interchain with the IBM service that is the Food Trust program, which is plugged into a lot of companies like Walmart, I think. But one way or another, our angle on it is that it potentially is a really good angle for smaller producers, smaller farms, smaller partners there, that they could much more readily integrate to that food chain that I believe is required by Walmart after a certain point in time. So if you guys know anybody that makes sense for, reach out to them. It's hard to communicate that because it's very abstract, complex stuff, but we know that we would be a better, cheaper angle to get on board with those systems. Let's see here. Okay, JapCams 1, 2, 3. Any timescales on Dragon Factor and the release of the mobile app? Now, I haven't answered yet. Thank you, in fact, because I knew that I had to find where you had asked that on Telegram. So one way or another, yes, we are in the middle of building that out. They had an internal, I guess it was a release at the end of the last sprint. I don't have it installed yet. I have it on my list to do this week, to get it installed, to get the code, to figure out next steps. Basically, it's not end to end yet. It is, if you remember the slide deck, and you know what, I'll try to show this next week, to see if I can maybe demo this next week, if at all possible. That it goes through creation of identity, creation of factors, and right now the only factors we have in there are the ones that were in that slide deck, which were verify your email, verify your phone with a text message, and verify, I believe Twitter was integrated. So those are admittedly not the most important factors, but the next step is getting it integrated with an actual third-party identity provider, and that's in the works. We're getting final numbers from them and everything else, and then we'll integrate, and then we'll have at least the part of the system where you can gather and create your identity and your factors. The next step would be to do the authentication and authorization, which hopefully will plug into either Den or Eternal first. We'll see. And then after that, it's a matter of getting other people to use it. We already have a few good people that are companies that are on board talking to us about that. So that should be good. So I'll get a demo out next week. I'm not certain of the absolute timeline on the calendar for it actually being publicly released yet. Let's see here. I'm gonna have to close up pretty soon, maybe. I don't want to run past 45. So let's see here. Tim Miller, would the public or majority users really want to run their own equipment if the value of Dragon isn't profitable? Charges one, but incur for the normal operation of that equipment. I would happen to think that even under, and I don't know what yesterday's numbers were, but that even under the average amount, and hopefully we'll see upticks in adoption. Let's see here. That you would be able to run a node at least close to profitability on your own hardware. It's extremely cheap to run a node on your own hardware. You have to know what you're doing, but you generally have to know what you're doing to run it on in cloud too. So in cloud, people have seen profit sometimes too. So it's a matter of supporting the network, and we'd prefer that you build something on a level 1. We'll help you. We'll do whatever. But if you have a use case or want to get involved, that's the preferable way to support. But we have to have node runners. So let's see here, Tommy again. So no need for a Web3.js on Dragonchain. Sorry for my lack of understanding. No worries. No, you obviously can integrate it, but it's a hybrid platform, so it is really unique. But that's the reason that we believe it's powerful. As an example, I've worked with a couple of projects recently, even that were building things out, and they had their mindset very much on the Ethereum model, which is it's a really good place to come from, but they were building, in let's say in one case, a game, okay? And the point being that when you model things out for full-on public decentralized node, if you're going to build your app on Ethereum, there are huge things that come with that you have to get everything up front. You have to know as much as you can about your economy, because it will change everything once people start using it. But what fits into the Dragonchain model is that use Dragonchain, and it is hybrid. So your node is at least by default private. It can easily be decentralized programmatically as you wish. You can definitely decentralize it, and you can even take certain aspects of your business logic and put it on Ethereum or Ethereum Classic to at least make sure that is fully decentralized. But our take is that primarily everything that you're doing, even in the private side, as you build transactions and put them into blocks, are all memorialized into the public network. So it's not even just Ethereum, it's Ethereum and Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic and Binance, without doing anything extra for that, very small transaction fee. It's extremely scalable, everything else. So you imagine now, I can make my game playable and fun, and it can be fun first. You don't have to worry about saying, oh, at this point, because this is on a decentralized system, that you have to pull out your hardware wallet and sign it, or you have to trust your keys in your browser, even though a lot of that is not necessarily unsafe. It's scary, especially for normal users. So you're basically saying, I want my game playable by these people, just this tiny bit of people that care about crypto, that want to play a blockchain game, and you want those people, but you don't want to have that as a requirement. You want adoption, so you want people to be able to play, have fun playing, and if value is created, if they've created that particularly magic item that they don't need in the game, and they can say, oh, what's this crypto thing? I did not realize that I could sell that to, I could give it to my buddy, or I could sell it to somebody across the world that might want to play this game. And, this is really rare, but I don't use it. It's a beautiful thing. So that's the point, that you want people to say, okay, in order to do that, you need a wallet. We recommend a hardware wallet. There is a process involved, but that's when people are driven to it, because they realize, oh, there's value, whether it's in just getting my buddy to also play the game by giving them some stuff, or because I can, I'm some kid in Asia and I can make some money on this thing. So that's the way that you drive adoption too for crypto, because at that point you realize, well, people have been playing to have fun, and at some point they realize, oh, there's there's this extra dimension to the whole thing, right? Anyway, that's the whole of it. Let's see here. Yes, Tim Miller. Yes, integrate your business in Dragonchain. That's anything you need from us. Let us know. If you already have devs, it'll be really helpful. I can almost guarantee that they will already have the majority of what they need to do that. And even I independently went and built some things to get a take on it from a new user point of view, to test the system out and to figure out, where do we need more documentation? Where do we need, anything else? And I was impressed as hell even. So let's see here. You're welcome, Tommy. Thanks for asking the questions. It's great. Brian Schmecker again. How can Dragon help with the coronavirus? Who knows? Transparency for certain. That anti-censorship. With Den potentially as the example. Eternal. I know that Tenacious Dragon, Eternal, Mickey, Eternalized News. That those guys are really doing some great things, pushing particularly important news items out to make sure that they're not lost if they should get censored. The other angle, we have some really neat ideas, and this is kind of a crazy outside thing, but for pharmaceuticals, and I'm not in this world, but I've spoken to some people that were interested in various ways to do these things. That right now apparently they do it like an MD5 hash on chemical formulas, and that. They were asking particularly about that, and the beauty with that for IP reasons, especially for pharmaceuticals, is that you could, even if it's a machine process, or even if it's a machine learning process, that you can actually encapsulate much stronger information. Number one, just in the hash itself, but in protection, but more so in the fact that you can keep that data private and make it provable all the way in a measurable way, so that if there is a patent issue, or even if you want to handle that for your licensing of that compound, it's extremely powerful and a lot more powerful than what they're using today. But there's right now a pretty big gap in the understanding of the very, very smart people who do that line of work, to know that they could use this tech for, to improve their systems. So anyway, looks like it's all the questions. It's 8:43. It went longer than I expected again. So sorry for the length, but thanks everybody for showing up, and like this if you can. I see there are 19 people on, only 13 likes. If you can like it, subscribe, and we'll be back next week. I'll try to have some more info, or maybe somebody else to see me all the time. Thanks so much. Bye.